Alright, so this is Jennifer Stillwell, and I have a Maya lesson for you. This is real basic stuff, nothing for anybody to worry about. I don't know about you, but when I first started learning Maya, I was insanely intimidated by all of this. And you know what? Doesn't do anything, doesn't scare me at all anymore. Why? Because it's all learnable. It's learnable for you too. Okay, so we're going to do just a quick little animation, real simple stuff. Okay, so the first thing you always want to do is get yourself a new window, a new project to work on. So we go up here to the top left under File, under the drop down menu, New Scene. Save changes to the old scene? No! Okay. Now, all this is just sort of gray, and I don't really feel like I have any orientation. And of course, in cyberspace, there is no actual up, down, right, left. There just isn't. You can make it anything you want. But just to give me a little bit of something to work with, I'm going to go up into Display up here in the top and click on Grid. Now this gives me some idea. This grid does not render. So if you're ever going to make a movie or a short film, and you're going to render every frame, the grid will not appear. But it's really handy sometimes just to have it while you're working, while you're making something and animating something. Okay, so we have our grid. We're going to do a bouncing ball in this lesson. Bouncing ball is usually the first lesson that is given to trainee animators, and I'm going to give it to you. Alright, now the first thing we want to make sure our mode here is in polygons. We can see there are a lot of choices. We have animation, polygon, surfaces, dynamics, rendering, end dynamics, and customize. We don't want any of those. We want what's on polygons. Okay, now we're going to create our ball. So we go under Create on the top of the screen to NURBS Primitives. Now let's look here what we got for primitives. We've got a sphere, a cube, a cylinder, a cone, a plane, which is just a flat surface, a torus, which is like a donut, a prism, which is like a three cornered triangle that's three-dimensional, pyramid, pipe, I'm not sure what that is, a helix, sounds interesting, soccer ball, platonic solids. We'll get to all of these. We're not in any kind of hurry right now. Alright, I want you to make sure your interactive creation is off and your exit on completion is on. And we're going to choose a sphere. And what we do is go to the little box, the little features box next to sphere, and we have our polygon sphere options box open. Okay, so radius. Radius means how wide and how tall. I want a size 3 box. And I feel okay with 20 axes divisions and 20 height divisions. And I feel okay with my axis being on Y, which is mean up and down. And I feel okay with the rest. So let's just, in this case, we can either hit a Create or Apply. And when I do that, this box is going to disappear and I will have a sphere. And I do. Isn't that wonderful? Okay. What it is right now, see how you can see everything through it? This is called wireframe, and I don't like wireframe. So I'm going to go over here to Smooth Shade All. Okay, do you see what I did? Now the ball is not selected, now the ball is selected. I had the ball selected, I went up here. Inside the main window is a panel here. I chose Shading, and I went down to Smooth Shade All. And I'm getting rid of that too. So this is what we look like. Just Smooth Shade All is on. Okay, nothing to worry about the rest of the stuff. Right, so now we've got a ball in the middle of the grid, which is all very fine and well, but I want the ball to bounce on the grid. I'm going to use the grid as sort of a surface. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, if I'm going to start animating this, I want my outliner. So I'm going to go up to Window, Outliner. And what the outliner gives us is just everything that's in the scene. Now, it's got cameras, perspective, top, front, and side. They're grayed out. We're not going to be using them at this moment. And it's got the sphere, which is this. Okay, notice that when I click on that, it highlights in there. If I unclick, it unclicks there. If I click there, highlights in there. That's how we select our objects. You can also select it in the hypergraph that's a whole nother issue. We won't deal with that in this lesson. The other thing we have in our window is default light set and default object set. You really don't need to worry about these pretty much ever, but they're there. They're there. It just depends on how deeply you want to go into learning Maya. And some people go really, really deeply. I kind of don't. And I have never had to deal with these. This basically gives you light set and object set so that when you're doing a play blast and when you're working with it before you've rendered anything, you can actually see it. And that's really all there is to that. Okay, so I'm going to click on Sphere. And I want my ball to rest on top of the grid. So I can either do this. Let's go over here and look at these. These are wonderful tools. This is a selection tool. See, I select nothing. I can select the ball. I can't select the grid. Notice that? That's because the grid isn't really there. That's why we don't ever see it when we render. It's just something there to help you orient. This is a selection thing. This is like you can lasso something, but you know, we're not doing that right now. This paint selection tool, that's a real fun tool. It's much too advanced right now. We're going to deal with that later. This is a move tool. That's all it is. Just move. It moves whatever object you select, it'll move it. Notice how when I hit the move tool and I select the ball, the sphere, it's got these little arrows on it. That indicates that you can move it. Okay? No. There, I've moved it. Okay, and then I just click Control Z, undo. Very good. This is fun. This is a rotate. Now, I don't know if you can see this. Maybe I get really close. So you guys can see this. Can you see this circle in here with the crosshairs? That lets you rotate the object, whatever it is. Control Z. Now I'm back to where I was. Rotate it all kinds of different ways. It's so much fun. Okay. Then there's this. This is a fun one too. This is your scale tool. If I grab that, it can stretch. My object can stretch. And yes, it will do this with any object you have here. If I pull this, isn't that fun? Okay. Or if I do the middle one, okay, now what I'm doing is I'm selecting left mouse button. I'm pressing down left mouse button, and then I'm dragging my mouse to the right, and it's getting bigger. Drag my mouse to the left, gets bigger, right, bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller. Ah! Okay. Let's go back and put our sphere the way it was. It was on 3, wasn't it? So we're going to go, this time I'm not going to eyeball it. I'm going to do it in the my wonderful channel box. So I'm highlighting, just click and drag, all of my scales, X, Y, and Z. And I hit 3, enter, and now it's 3. And that's absolutely huge. Alright, I decided I don't want it that big. Let's do 2. Better, let's do 1. There, let's do 1. Okay, very nice. So let's get it close. Oh, yeah, let me show you about this. What I'm doing here is I have my Alt button pressed down on my keyboard, and my left mouse button, and notice when I press down my left mouse button, I get this little shape here that looks like little arrows in a circle. This is called a tumble tool. Your object isn't moving, the camera is. Isn't that fun? So you can do all sorts of things like that. Alright, now also pressing down the Alt tool, pressing down the middle button of the mouse, I mean the Alt key on the keyboard, and then middle button of the mouse. This is where we make the camera go up and down. Camera's going down, camera's going up, camera's going down, camera's going up. It looks like it's the object, but it's not. It's the camera. Okay, so I'm tilting this a bit. Okay, so let's get my sphere. Let's see what this does for me. Yes. Okay, so it's right. It looks like it's sitting right on top of the grid. Now, notice where it is. It's exactly in the middle, and I do mean exactly. The bottom of the sphere, which is right here, rather than the middle, which is up here, is right on X and Y 0. X is this way, and I'm sorry, X is Z0, and Z is this way, X is going deep. It's 3 dimensions. Might take you a while to get used to that. Okay, so we have our sphere resting very nicely on the grid. Everything is lovely. And now we have created a sphere. Yay! Give yourself a pat on the back. You've created a sphere and you've positioned it. Okay, wonderful. Now we're going to animate it. So I've selected it. See how it's selected there? And we're going to go down here to the timeline. The timeline is what we're going to use to animate it. Basically, we're going to tell the sphere what we want it to do, for how long we want it to do it, and where we want to do it. And that's what animation's all about. It's making it's giving the illusion of life, making the lifeless appear to be alive. The illusion of life was a term coined by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson, who were 2 of the 9 old men that worked for Walt Disney in the classic age of Disney animation. Alright, so look at our time frames. We've got frame 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 24. That's fine. That's about what I want to work with. Over here in this box tells us the number that is to the most extreme left, and over here in this box tells us not so much the number, but the frame that is over to the extreme right. So we have 48 frames to work with. We don't see them right now because of this thing. This little slider thing, you slide it back and forth, and you see how the numbers change because it's encompassing it all. Is that too complicated? Is that a pain? Then just do this. We can drag it so that I see all the numbers at once. Yay! Okay. That's sometimes easier. However, I don't want 48 frames. I only want 24. Okay? Exactly half of 48. Why do I want 24 frames? That's actually very important. American movies, American audiences are used to watching movies that are projected 24 frames a second. So film began as a strip of pictures when a light was shown through it and it was projected out of the camera. Each picture was a tiny bit different, and when the cameras rolled in succession, it gave them the appearance that they were moving, even though each tiny picture itself was not. And Americans are used to American cameras, movie cameras, which classically projected at 24 frames a second. Europe and Canada, it's not necessarily that, and then video came along and all kinds of stuff. You can now, show your stuff at just about any frame per second you want, but since I'm classically trained, I'm a good old 24 frames a second girl. So we've got 24 frames down here. So we've got our sphere selected and our frame 1. So now we're going to give it something to do. Here's where we do our animation. And I want us to start exactly right here. So I'm going to tell it that I want it to be animated. Notice how here, behind the numbers, the field is black. Now I'm going to go up to, and I've got my sphere selected. Oh, and I can't find it. Why? Because I'm not creating anything anymore. Now I'm animating. So I have to go over here. Remember where we chose polygons? I got to select it and go into animation mode. Changes everything up here. Very exciting. Okay, so I've got my sphere selected. I go up to animate, set key. Notice how over here, behind the numbers, it's now this sort of orangey pinky thing. That indicates that there's animation on this frame. And on this, like if there's nothing selected, nothing. Once I select the thing, the object, that shows there's animation on it. Okay? On frame 1. Well, let's go to another frame. Notice how the little red line remains there. That's because their animation is on that frame and not on any of the others. Now I'm going to go to frame 24. What I'm going to be making is called a cycle. I'm just going to make the ball bounce up and down. Really, really simple cycle. So we want our ball to bounce down on frame 1 and down on frame 12. So we've got sphere selected, frame 24 selected. I meant to say down on frame 24, and we go up to animate, set key. Now we've got the little red line there. Now let's look at our animation so far. Nothing is happening. Oh, well, don't worry. things are going to heat up. Okay, so now we're going to go in the exact middle. Between 1 and 24, we've got 12. And we're going to take our little ball, and we're going to go select the Move tool, and we're going to move our ball up. Now, you can do it here with a number. Let's go back to 0, which is what we weren't. We were like, what, 3, right? You can do it here. You can do it with manually, or rather with your thumb or something. Or you can do it here, 9 or something like that, okay? I'm going to actually do that. Okay, so that's going to be how high I want my ball to bounce. Ooh, notice that there's animation on it. Okay, I didn't even do that. I must have my, yeah, I do. I want that. I'm going to keep that off for now. That's auto key. That will automatically keyframe your animation. I don't like that, because I like to have control over what I want to make into animation or not. Let's see what it looks like now. The ball's bouncing! How exciting! Yay! Okay, so now we have a very simple bouncing ball. Why don't we make it a little more interesting? Stop. Okay, I just hit stop. Frame 12. What are balls usually made out of? Well, they can be made out of all kinds of things. But I want our ball to be made of rubber, something that will stretch and squash. Okay, so now I hit the scale tool, and I stretched my sphere, didn't I? Now I'm going to go up, hit animate, set key, so that way when it bounces, it's going to stretch a little bit on frame 12. Okay, now what I just did right here is I deselected the scale tool. What I did was, it's a keyboard command, I just hit the letter Q. But you can also just go like that. See, so there's scale, and then I hit the arrow, and it makes the scale thing go away. You can also hit Q. Now let's see what our animation looks like. Okay, getting more interesting. Okay, stop. Now let's try something else. Scale tool again. Let's just sort of squash it a little bit. Okay, and now because it's not quite sitting on the 0, I'm going to mush it down. Okay, and again, animate, set key. Now let's try it. Okay, it's sticking a little bit, but that's okay. Let's go over here and do the same thing. Now again, you can animate just with the numbers here. I usually try to do a little more intuitive, because that's the kind of person I am, but there is no reason you can't animate totally by numbers and math over using the channel box at this point, if that's what you're more comfortable with. It really comes down to personal taste. Alright, so now let's try it. Now that is an interesting ball bounce. Congratulations. Okay, stop. You're going to go up into File, Save Scene As, and when it comes up, and let's see, I'm going to call this Bouncing Ball. Save. Yes, I want to replace it. Student version, yes. Okay, congratulations, you have animated a bouncing ball.